GoSGC.com. Experience, quality, consistency, and the quickest turnaround times in the grading industry? We are proud to partner with SGC Grading. Check them out at www.gosgc.com.
Hi, I'm Danny Black.
And I'm John Newman.
Welcome to Card Mentions.
What's going on, John? Episode 44. And
Which was the number of the National that we just attended.
Good call. And I think we want to thank some of our sponsors real quick.
Yeah, we'll start with, as you see it on the screen there, Stadium Insurance, right? Great sponsor. Listen, you know, we say it all the time, right? You have anything of significance, you send or receive cards of significance, you got to insure your stuff. It'll can make a really bad day not as bad by having insurance. So Stadium Insurance, they have an app. You can do it via the app. Very easy. You don't have to write everything down. You can take a video of your inventory and keep it on file and then add to it as need be.
And also CIA Auctions, new auction house. If you know Texas Snowman, Jeremy Dodson, or Chris Sewell, they have collectorinvestorauctions.com, CIA Auctions, and definitely check them out. They've got some great deals and an auction that I believe is starting tomorrow, maybe, I believe. So check them out, definitely. All right, you want to do the introduction to the show? Some hellos? What's up, Ruben? What's up, Warren?
Yeah, before we talk about what the show is about, let's start out with some thank yous. We attended the Moynihan YouTube dinner, which was Thursday? I'm lost track of days. I believe it was Thursday, and met a lot of great people that we knew in the chat room. We met them in person, and that was a real treat and really cool, right? To put a face to the name. We met people at the show as well, and so we always thank the chat room. But now we know what you look like. So if you want to make fun of us, just keep that in mind. The jig is up.
See, I think it works two ways. They also know how unimpressive we are. So,
well, I've always said I'm uglier in real time, and I think I proved that. I think that theory was proven not only Thursday, but all week, and it gets worse every year at the National too.
Hodge is one of the people got to see.
Yeah,
thank you
again, man. That was just and today's episode, right, is what we love about the hobby, right? And it's not one thing. I've got a list here.
Thank you, Jason. And Jason, thank you for the wonderful message and the Mike Boddicker card.
So like, the hobbies, there's a lot of reasons why this is the greatest hobby in the world, as Dr. Beckett says, right? And so we wanted to do a positive show. We didn't really want to do, wind up doing a national recap on hobby quick hits, but we didn't really want to do sort of that on this episode of Mentions. So we're gonna, will the National come up in some of these things? For sure, but we didn't want it to make it 100. People are probably like winding down from it. There's no shortage of National content. I'll add to it with a hobby quick hits episode next week, but we didn't want to do that today.
One of the things just to clear up in the chat room was we got a couple different channels. It's one chat room. They all come together. But if you're in a chat room and you don't see other people in the chat, it's probably because they're on a different channel. But you can see them all, hopefully, on the big board. All right. So where do you want to start today? You want to explain kind of your theory?
Yeah, I mean, I just wrote stuff down. We can kind of go tit for Tad. These are in no order. These are just kind of, I just wrote them. I wrote them down, you know, and you know, so this is why the chat room's great. Like, you know, just keep us on our toes. And if we never would get a big head because they wouldn't let us anyway. So, you know, I just wrote stuff at random. I probably left something out, but I'll probably think of more stuff as we go, you know, back and forth here. Who you want to start off? You want me to start off?
Why don't you start off? I'm having fun playing with chat room comments.
All right. One of the things I wrote, you know, for why I love the hobby is family ties, and I'm not talking about the show in the 80s, right?
Great show, by the way.
Oh, huh?
Great show.
Yeah, that's not what I'm talking about, though. When I say family ties, I mean most of us, a family member or even a friend is why we're in the hobby, right? For me, it was my grandfather taking me to the corner store and receiving that 79 Topps box on the counter of baseball. And that's how it all started, right? And obviously, you know, my grandfather's been gone since 1984, but I'll always have that tie amongst others, right? If it wasn't for my grandfather, and then later with my dad and his collection, you know, I probably wouldn't be here. And so there's always going to be that family thread in my case, and I think for many others, you know, it's similar. Not in all cases, but I think a lot of us were exposed to the hobby from a family member or family friend or friend and that sort of thing. And that story, whatever it is for you out there, will never change, right? That's always will be the constant. Sounding a little bit like the voice in Field of Dream, you know, but it'll always be that constant to why we're here. And you know, for me, it was my grandfather, and again later my dad. So I wrote down family ties, and you'll never forget, or you shouldn't forget how it started. Maybe, you know, 10 years from now when dementia sets in, I'll have to have someone remind me where it all began.
That was very sweet. You caught me off guard.
I didn't make you cry though, so it wasn't really a super success.
This is great. I think this has to do with the shirt. Did you get a side job working at Ben and Jerry's?
This is my Old Bay shirt.
Shout out to Old Bay.
You know, it's very small, but it's right here. It says Old Bay, which I had Old Bay wings the first time I went to Baltimore, and I've had Old Bay before, but not wings. And I love Old Bay. I'm in on Old Bay. So much so I had to get a shirt to represent Old Bay and express my love in apparel form.
Do you want to give a shout out to your new store?
It's not really. I haven't released yet. I'm working on a merch store. Is what Danny's trying to do. You know, it's gonna have some of the podcast stuff, but I'm doing some what I think are funny shirts, hobby related as well.
Jason wants to know if you're at Ben and Jerry's flavor. I guess you would be Chunky Monkey.
Yeah, or as my one kid I was telling you before we started the show, I'm a teacher in special ed, and my one good kid that didn't want me to go to Cleveland gave me a big hug coming off the bus with the first day back. Yeah, my nickname's Beef.
I'm gonna piggyback a little bit on yours, but I'm gonna take it the other direction. Is anybody who saw me at the National, you probably saw my son with me. Getting to pass it down to your kids if they're lucky enough to be interested in the hobby, it is definitely one of the reasons I love the hobby. My son spent the week, going to all the events. He loved the Diamond King movie. He went to dinners, everything, and it was a special time with my son and I. So definitely a shout out to spending that to what you said. And one of the good things was having my son there, and to everybody who he harassed, and uh, he had a blast, and he actually liked meeting everybody. So thank you to everybody for being so cool to him.
Yeah, I made him laugh 25 times. I had the John made Connor laugh meter. The final tally was 25, which he tried not to. So that that was an accomplishment to get 25 either laughs or chuckles and that sort of thing. So my son also dabbles a little bit. My son's a little bit older at age 24 and will not travel. He doesn't like to travel too much. So I miss that. I miss that age of 12 or 13 with like Connor and Zach. That's a great age to be a dad of, I think. I mean, it's great to be a dad at any point, but that's a fun age for a dad, right? It's pretty soon your kids will be at the age where they think you're smart. They're smarter than you. They think they can kick your butt, and those are always fun conversations.
I'd like to point out that my son is also 13.
Yeah. What'd I say?
No,
wow.
John Keating said he bought him his first beer. I was just clarifying.
Well, he might have. That might be a true story.
It might have been a root beer.
Well, maybe something happened you're not aware of. I wouldn't, it could happen.
It is a sad night for Orioles fans. Not gonna argue that. All right, so do you want to do? Do you want to go? You want me to go?
You can throw another one out there, and then we'll do kind of a snake draft, if you will.
What do I love about the hobby? Sets. I absolutely love set collecting. I have a respect for people who do it much better than I do. I have a respect for people that have many more sets. I fell in love with this a year or two ago. I was never a heavy set collector guy, and one of the most fun things I've had in the hobby so far is working on completing my first vintage set. So it's never something I got into before, but I think it's a great part of the hobby. I don't think enough people talk about it. And I think it's a great way at any price range to do it. So that is sets. I do enjoy sets.
You said you're not a heavy set collector. I am a heavy set collector, but I don't really collect sets anymore. So figure that one out. There's a riddle for you. When I was younger and seemed to have more room and not married and all that fun stuff, I did collect more sets. I eventually sort of moved away from that, sold most of them. So I'm not a set collector, but that is a great answer, right? You see at the shows people helping each other out, filling in holes. Hey, I got these for you. I don't know how many you need. Take what you need. I'm working on this set. Maybe you can help me on this set in the future or now and trade. That's that great camaraderie, right? Like that. It's fun to even go to show, right? What's more fun than getting that last card to complete the set, right? It's always the toughest one. It's always probably sometimes the most expensive one in some cases. But there is that adrenaline rush, right? To finishing a set, that sense of accomplishment, like, hey, I did it. And not only the accomplishment in yourself, but knowing you had some hobby friends that maybe helped you get there and were a small or big part of that potentially, right? That's a good one. So while I don't do it anymore, I fully get it. It's a good one.
I appreciate that. So what's next on your list?
All right, this might not apply to everybody. It applies to me being a New York City kid, right? I think there's a a good percentage. I don't. I was going to say high. I don't know if maybe that's. There's a good percentage of us that are in the hobby, not only because of what I just said with a family member or friend, but because we were sports fans first, right? Even at a very young age, Danny, 5, 6, 7 years old, I was a baseball kid and just starting to get even into football. So I was a sports kid, and you know, the cards give us ties to our favorite players, our favorite teams, right? We feel connected. There's that interconnectedness with being a fan of a team, whether that's a local team in the city you live, or in my case, even though I was a Yankee fan at a very young age, I wasn't a Jets or Giants fan in football. I became a Steeler fan. And so I wasn't able to go to Steeler games at that point, but collecting those Mean Joe Green and Jack Lamberts and Swan and Stallworth and those guys that, the list goes on and on. I was connected to the Steelers, even though I lived in New York City. So it's the connection to our sports teams, right? I know we have a lot of Philly guys in the chat room, right? And, most of them are probably Philly fans of all the Phillies teams, right? The Phillies themselves, the Flyers, and the Eagles, right? And the cards are a way to connect to the team, right? Learn the stats and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I'm with you, Mookie. But it's that connectedness to the team, right? That you feel like, we're all guilty of this when you're a fan of the team. Like, your team wins the World Series and you say, we won the World Series, like you're on the team. We won, no, the Mets won or the Phillies won or the Yankees won the World Series. Not you, you're getting no ring, but because of that connection, whether it be through the city, the team, and that card connection, we're connected to that team. So that's one I wrote down.
Well, I'll go out of order on my list just because I had something pretty similar to that. I said that collecting can make you a better sports fan, and a sports fan can make you a better collector. That they can go hand in hand, and a lot of it comes down to how you want a PC and stuff like that. But I don't think there's any doubt about it. Most of us got started with our favorite teams or favorite players at the very beginning. And then it grew from there. So I think those two go hand in hand. And as somebody who likes to like for kids to get involved in sports and cards, I like that they play off of each other.
Yeah, no doubt. And here's, piggybacking off that, one of the things on my list. Now, you worked for the Braves and Orioles, so you were fortunate to get to know the players or some of them and be right in the, up close and personal. Most people don't get that luxury. So it's the closest to the players we're going to get is sometimes through the cards that we acquire or open in packs, right? And then you factor in, I see it here at my local AAA stadium for the Syracuse Mets. You see it any major league game you go to, right? I'd say kids, but they're adults too, right? Bringing the cards for the players to sign. And so it creates a bond even between people and professional players, right? Whether they sign or not, there's that potential for, to get that card signed. And if they sign it, right, you put it back in your album, or in some cases, some people sell it on eBay. But whatever the case may be, there's that connection, right? There's the story. If it's being kept for a PC type of deal, you'll always have that card. Maybe remember that game, especially if it's a significant player, right? Remember when so and so, responded, came over and signed this card, signed this ball. So it's that stuff that you can't put a price on as well. We've seen, in recent years too, we've seen the players. I'm sure Fanatics has a little bit of a hand in that. We're seeing the players get more involved in the hobby. We're seeing players who collect and talk about it and do shows about it or do segments about it. So, and now it's a two-way street where I always felt before in many moons ago, right? It was just kids and adults collecting cards, and the players were like, hey, Top, say Fleer score, but just pay me for my likeness on your cardboard in Chrome, right? Now it's more to it than that. Now they're collectors in many cases themselves and enjoying it and posting about it and going to shows, right? We've seen people take pictures and say, hey, so and so, was at the show, not as a signer. He was at the show buying cards and that sort of thing. We've seen more even parents of major league players openly say, hey, I'm collecting my son or daughter's cards, a professional. If you have any, contact me. I'm looking to add to my inventory. So, that horizon has gotten more vast as well. So, it's that's I kind of think that's cool. I know some others might maybe not feel exactly the same way, but I think that's a cool aspect that we've seen more of in recent years than in traditionally speaking.
All right, I'll give you one that I think, unfortunately, we're seeing less of in the hobby.
Right.
Interacting with other people and learning social skills, learning interaction skills, math, negotiating, just good basic skills. It seems, and maybe I'm turning in to get off my lawn, but it seems like the kids now, it's just comps, price. Are you buying? Are you selling? And I get pretty effing bored of that. And have some respect. Learn how to talk to other human beings. Learn how to be respectful. And the hobby, part of my love is that it can teach people those skills, and those are skills that you can use in life.
We had this conversation at the National, me and you, and I'm not sure. I think someone else might have been there. One of the things I noticed, and I didn't go to any of the sanctioned trade nights after the show, but there was a trade night all over the place. There was a trade nights in the food court. There was a trade night in the basement of the IX Center down there where they were holding court. And I walked around, and much like you said, Danny, I saw kids. When I say kids, I'm old, so kids can be 12 to 18, 21 years old, right? And I didn't see an attachment. They had their cards laid out. They had their Zion cases open. And it was just like, hey, I'll do these 3 for these 2. It was just a financial deal. It was strictly financial. And then they'll get those new cards and go to the next person. Not even, they might own them for 5 minutes and then wheeling them and deal. They just became strictly like stocks and commodities. And I'd be sitting here and lie to you if I said that didn't bother me. But you know what? It's a new era. It's a new age. And we traded too when I was younger. I would trade certain players for players I wanted, or certain teams someone else wanted for teams I wanted. But there was that connection. I wanted those cards, not to in turn turn around and trade them away to someone else. I wanted to keep those for the long term, at least in the moment. So when you see that kind of thing, what you pointed out, and we talked about it in the moment, right? Again, I'm not going to be disingenuous about it. It kind of stinks to see it on that level, but that's where we are with way cards are priced and what they can go for and the money involved, right? I grew up in the show where if you had $100 and you were walking around the show, you felt like Rockefeller, right? Yep. Now kids are making 5-figure deals, and I'm talking, teenagers, and it's a whole different. It's a different hobby than again, maybe a little bit of the old man on the porch. And again, this is where I always say, while I wish I was 30 years old again, I also glad I grew up in the part of the hobby era I did, because it wasn't about value when I grew up in the hobby. Now it's kind of entrenched. It's intrinsic. So that part I wouldn't change. If I could knock 20 years off my birth certificate, that I would change.
I just put a question in the chat room. Let me take a step back. Jason says, that's why I think this community is great, because people are genuinely happy, interested in what you pick up. Absolutely, without a doubt. I just put a question in there. I don't know what a flawless box goes for right now, but I've seen parents who are buying flawless boxes for their kids for good report cards. And while I'm all for good report cards, what's a box of flawless go for?
I believe it's 4 figures.
I mean, that's what I'm like. That's ridiculous to me. When I grew up, if you got 3 A's, you could go to Pizza Hut and get a free personal pizza. That seems about right.
It's a different era, man.
But the kids don't learn. They're entering the market in $1,000 cards.
I hear you. There's a saying, right? You can't save everybody. That's just the fact of the matter, right? So,
Yep.
So
exactly, Mike. But what do I like about the hobby, and what do I love about the hobby? How about the first time a kid ever hits something opening a pack? The first time you hit something in a pack, even if it's just a number, a color, or an auto, that feeling you're chased the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I wrote down chase.
Okay.
Right? For me, the early chase was, Yankees and Thurman Munson cards, then Reggie's, and then a few years after that, right? It was Mattingly rookies, specifically that '84 Donruss, big face close up. Then the Griffey came along. Then the Mattingly Winfield batting average chase, and then that card in the '85 Donruss with both of them on it, right? I remember cards. It has nothing to do with value. And I know some of these are obviously worth more than others. But that '85 Donruss Winfield Mattingly is $1, $2, if that, and even then, but it was just because of that batting average battle, right? Then the '89 Griffey, and then the '92 Bowmans came out, and we were chasing those rookies and the Piazzas and the Mariano and Street clothes, and and then A-Rods, and I mean, it's almost like a Billy Joel. We didn't start the fire, but the baseball card edition, right? Someone should do that, not me, but someone else, and then so on and so on, right? There was always something next that we chased as young collectors and young adult collectors, and and even now, right? I don't open hardly much at all, but when I do, right, you want to hit something nice, right? It's fun. That adrenaline rush, right?
Yep.
I still have it at 51 years old. It comes in many forms, whether I'm opening a box, a pack, or whether I'm stepping through the show doors on the hunt for a Tom Seaver rookie with no guarantee of finding one, or finding one at a price that fits the budget, right? That's the chase. So chase doesn't have to be always in pack form. Adrenaline doesn't have to be just in pack form. Adrenaline can come in many forms, from finding that card you're missing, finding that last card to complete a set, finding a card, your grail card you've always wanted, you've never owned, and now it's time, and you have that income. Adrenaline is meeting people and getting together, whether it be at a dinner or a social functioning, right? That's the stuff in the hobby that even goes beyond the cards, right? So yeah, I agree.
Some great comments. Mookie said his adrenaline rush comes from making wacky jokes in live streams. Orlando,
but why not? It
absolutely.
works.
Orlando says at the National he saw parents buying Fanatics kids cases for hundreds of dollars.
Those are for those that are keeping score at home. Those go for $150 a piece.
That's no comment. TJ says some people are still chasing the Seaver rookie in repacks.
I wasn't taking that chance.
Yeah, not exactly.
You know, and that stuff, man. You know, and you know the hobby's a fraternity. I've said that. You know, I know the tagline for Sportscard Nation: the hobby's the people, but it's a fraternity. You know, whatever you collect, we're still in the hobby. Like I use Logan Ward, for example, very good friend of both of ours, maybe many in the chat room. He collects, I mean, he has some baseball cards from when he was younger, but he doesn't really buy baseball cards anymore. He's a NASCAR collector. But he's one of my great hobby friends. I don't collect NASCAR cards. I sometimes give him some that I somehow acquire, maybe in a collection. But we're in the same fraternity, right? We might be in different, niches of it, but we're in the same hobby fraternity, and that's the bond we share. And even though I don't collect NASCAR cards, sometimes I'll get them and pass them on, and vice versa, right? And so the hobby fraternity is something, you know, I don't take lightly. I think it's a great thing. You know, that's why you see turnouts at like Moynihan's thing. It gets bigger every year. That fraternity's growing. The alumnus is getting bigger. And that's going to continue to grow. And, you know, I hate to say it like this, as we age out, you know, the fraternity's still going to get bigger. The younger folks will take the torch and run with it. So, you know, that I love that. You know, I love that fraternity aspect that the hobby gives you.
I don't know if I should admit this. I probably spent less time with cards at this national than I ever have. I spent more time with people and friends, and meeting people in person that I haven't met before, and just talking. And this was one of my favorite nationals. So when you talk about that, you know, it's not just a fraternity, but it's a fraternity that every year is exciting.
Yeah, no doubt. Like we circle, you know, again, I'm not making this a national show, but right, the national is the Super Bowl week of the hobby. Most of us circle it. We tell our employers if we have one that we're not going to be at work that week. It's pretty much, I tell my employer, it's pretty much the same week every year during summer school. I will be there at summer school except for these 4 or 5 days, and it's all good, right? So, you know, I thought, you know, I know people, you know, listen, don't get me started on the Wi-Fi. It's 2024. Figure it out, National. It's important, right? For breakers, it's important for dealers for credit card transactions. It's important for buyers at the show to look up comps, whether you like that or not. That's the landscape and terrain of the hobby. Like it's 2024, man. Like, you know, I go to a base. You know, we went to the Guardians game on Wednesday night. What was there? 35, 40,000 people. I used my phone. It was no problem. Like, come on, National, figure this out. It should be such an old news story, and yet every year it raises its ugly head, and I scratch my head and say, why and how and fix this. Like, we're not a third world country. At least I hope we're not. Maybe we're turning into one, at least on the Wi-Fi side of stuff. And like, figure it out, man. Like, you know how many dealers you're having. You know approximately how many people are coming through the door, you know, give or take 1,000 either way. Like, get the bandwidth, get the infrastructure in place. You do it every year. It's pretty similar numbers. Like, figure it out, man. No, I'm not going to give them a pass on that. I'll give them more of a pass on traffic. You're at the mercy of the location and how many exits and entrances there are. You know, I'd hope that's not the last Cleveland National for not only because I enjoyed the city, but for selfish reasons, full transparency too, because it's only 5 hours and 10 minutes from me here in Syracuse, and I could drive by myself both ways and not worry about it. And so I hope we get that again. And I don't know. We're gonna have Chicago, and Chicago
next 3 years.
3 years. So for you Bulls fans that like the three-peats, the national fans are going to get the Chicago three-peat. And Chicago's a great city too. It's just a little further for me and not drivable. And I get it. If you live near Chicago, that's a dream, come true, having the national in your backyard. So, we'll see. But I like Cleveland. I hope that's not the last time we get in Cleveland. Everyone says we'll never see an Atlantic City National again. I like the Atlantic City National. You don't have to like the city. I'm not walking the streets making like trade deals in the Bullocks. I'm going to the show. I'm going back to my hotel. I'm taking a shower and relaxing, going to sleep, and get ready for the show the next day. I'm not in the bad neighborhoods looking for a fix or a score. So, be careful where you get a halfway decent hotel, and watch where you walk, I guess. But, I hope it comes back to Atlantic City someday, although I'm not going to bet my house on
it. Next one, can I go to the next one on my list?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm going positive here. Why do I love the hobby? The feeling of walking into the national for the first time of the year. That first time you open the door and you walk in and see the room. I enjoy it every time.
Yeah, you know what I enjoy now more? Like, obviously, this was my fifth or sixth one. I'm starting to lose count.
Yep.
I love talking to people at the national who it's their first national ever, and getting there. Yeah, sometimes they can't even put into words. They're like, John, overwhelming. It's crazy. You hear stuff like that. I love that because I remember my first one, and people were telling me, this is what it's like, Newman. It's going to be like this. Do this. Here's a tip. Do this, do that, right? And you take all this information in, and in your mind, you think, oh, I know what it's going to be like now. I didn't see the movie, but everyone told me the plot and what happens. So nothing's going to catch me off guard. And then you walk in for the first time, and you're like you just said, it's like whoosh. And I don't care what anyone told you, how true it is. When it hits you, it's an experience, right? To the point people don't even know how to put it in words half the time. So I enjoy talking to people when it's their first national. But whether it's your first national, your fifth national, or your 44th, in the case of Dr. Jim's case, listen, that guy don't have to go to the national. He's been there, done that, right? And he still loves it, travels. That's what the national is. It never gets old, no matter how many you've been to, and you want to go to the next one. And if you don't go, you really, people didn't go. Like, said, man, I got FOMO, or I missed out, and I'm definitely not going to miss out on 2 in a row. And you're not going to find another week where that many people are in the hobby in the same city, in the same building at the same time. It won't happen. And Fanatics Fest, be damned, and that might turn out to be a great show. You're going here, and I'm efforting, potentially going for a day, not 100%, and that might be a great event. It's not going to be the national, and the national is that week, right? And it's fun. I look forward to every year, and we're counting down the days to Chicago, and then we're counting down the days to the next Chicago. Then we're counting down the days to the third Chicago in a row. I'm not bitter about that. Can you tell?
You know, when we're there, we'll enjoy it. Ruben, yes, Quantum Leap, by the way, I just want to give a shout out for the reference. Great show. Mike Petty, yep. And it's not even the national card shows are just fun.
Yeah, that's another thing, man. Forget just putting the national label.
Yep.
Card shows, right? You know you're going to the card show tomorrow, wherever it is. A small 100-table show, a 40-table show, right? Whether in my case you're setting up or you're going as a consumer. Sometimes I have no trouble sleeping at night, but the day before a card show, that adrenaline, right? What am I going to buy tomorrow? If I'm a dealer, am I going to do well? Am I going to get to buy some stuff and acquire something, right? All those thoughts running through your head. It's like Christmas for card collectors, and you can't sleep or you can't sleep well. And you're looking forward to it. It's like being a kid in a candy store. The card show, is one of the biggest adrenaline things you can have in the hobby.
Loving the comments. I want to get up to this one. Stu says he's got his room. I'd love to right next to the Donald E. Stevens Convention Center. I
thought it said right next to Danny.
No,
and I was going to say
they
might want to wear earplugs. I read that wrong.
Connor described it as a race to go to bed first.
I won the first night. I crashed bad.
I would love to know if you booked that directly or through Expedia or something like that. I will be at Fanatics Fest for a day. We'll see if it brings in other types of sports fans to cards. Talking about card shows. There's people out there that are going to become new card fans. And if I'm boring you, John, I apologize.
No, I'm still recovering, dude.
I'm kidding.
I'm still trying to catch up on sleep.
Well, I just slept for an entire day when I got home.
I had to go right back to work.
Yeah. All right. What do you have next on your list?
Some people are not going to like this, right?
And let's remember what the topic is. We are discussing why we love the hobby. That is the point.
And this isn't just a dealer thing, but it's a big dealer thing, right? Financial, right? Listen, when I'm a dealer, I love selling cards, right? I'm not gonna lie about it and I'm not a disingenuous person. I love setting up a deal. I did my first show as a dealer in 1987. I was 15 years old, very shy, did well somehow, and the rest is history. I've done shows, at least one show and multiple shows every year, minus maybe a year or two since I'm 15 and I'm 51. I love setting up. I love attending them as not a dealer. But, I love moving cards, getting some money to do what? Buy more cards. Right? I don't think we have to apologize for that. I think some people in the hobby try to, give others you sold something? I've never sold a card in my whole life. I'm a collector. Well, guess what? I'm a collector too that sells cards. You see the cards behind me? I'm blocking them because with my big body here. There's some over here. There's cards all around this room that don't go to shows with me, that are not for sale.
Shout out to Mark Hoyle, by the way. Check that out.
Yeah, right. And you don't have to apologize for that. It's fun. It's a good way to make some extra money, and it's a good way to buy more cards and keep the hobby transacting. And I had one person, it wasn't recently, I don't know, a couple years ago, they looked me dead in my eye and said, "John, you're not a true collector." And I said, "I'm not?" Like, explain that to me. Maybe you're right. Maybe I am not. Tell me why I'm not. Well, you sell cards. And I'm like, all right, but I also collect cards. What's a true collector? We use that term in in sports for teams. Oh, he's a true Yankee, meaning like they drafted him. He came up through the farm system. He's never been on another team. Well, what like to me, like we're like I started at 7 years old collecting cards. Like, I just don't know what true collector, so maybe it's different meaning for everyone, but don't tell me I don't collect cards. I can show you a lot of cards that don't ever people at that go to the shows I set up never see. So I don't like that when it happens. People are entitled to their opinion at the same time. But you don't have to apologize for selling some of your cards, maybe that you have extras or you don't have an attachment to buy cards you have an attachment to. Like I bought a Seaver, right? I used some of my show money from setting up as a dealer, doing SGC bulk subs. I used some of that income to buy the Seaver that's behind me that will never make its way into my showcase at any show I set up at. So I wear both of those hats, right? Dealer, collector. I don't want to sound like Chris Sewell here in a second. So like, some people try to give you a guilt trip for that. I don't know why. Maybe it makes them feel better. And you don't have to be a dealer, right? You can list stuff on eBay and just sell from your house or online, any marketplace, right? So you don't even need necessarily a sales tax number, as I have and you have. And you don't have to feel bad about selling that. Buy something you want. That's it.
First of all, the amount of Boog Pal conversation that's coming up is making.
Yeah, and I want to shout out to my friend Alessio here. You just put it. Alessio is my show roommate. Like when we set up at shows, he's next to me, and it is like he says, the only downfall is he's next to me. Another little tip: we went to high school together. How crazy is that?
That is crazy. Mike Petty says he's going to set up a table at Burbank, and he's selling his Boog Pal player run. I absolutely love that Boog Pal. Mike Petty, I know you know the answer. Can anybody tell me what position he came up at playing and what his real first name is? And Mike Petty, you don't count because I'm sure you have it.
And here's a comment when we spoke with Orlando, right here. No, that ain't the one. Right here. Orlando sold and traded lots of cards. But we've seen his big purchase, right? That was a great acquisition, right? And he said, "Hey, I sold some stuff that I liked, but I wanted this more, right?" And it's those are the great stories, and that sort of stuff. So. And we shouldn't have to apologize for that, feel bad. I think there's more people who've sold a card than people who've never, ever, like people say, I've never sold one card. I think there's more people who have sold something, even if it's for a few bucks somewhere, than who've never sold a card in the hobby.
And I got news for you. I brought cards intending to possibly sell or upgrade to the National. And I wouldn't feel bad about that.
Yeah. Some people will try to make you feel bad. Not a lot, but some people will.
No, F them. It's my journey. That's what's
they won't get an argument from me.
The TJ says the National, some vintage dealer with a few signed PSA mantles in his display called Mel Ott of Common. Yeah, Mel Ott. It's a shame that career didn't work out.
He should have been a Hall of Famer. Oh, wait.
Right. Mookie says, I sold all year to be able to afford my Jackie Auto.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it.
Yeah, man. I almost pulled the trigger. I don't have a Jackie Auto, full disclosure. And we talked about this. There was some there. There was multiple, and I could have bought one and spent my money. I didn't. I'm wondering if it's something maybe I put on the list for next year. And like Mookie said, just kind of save all year and just go in there knowing I'm going to come out of here with one.
And by the way, one of the things I love about the hobby and the people in our chat room is honestly, we're all happy for each other. Happy for what Orlando got.
Yeah, man, that's a great point by Danny Black right there.
See, everybody's got everybody's back on this. It's not jealousy; it's mutual admiration society. I think we love hearing what everybody picked up.
Listen, how many times did we try to help someone out? Right? Hey, I had, I got to give credit where credit's due. When I said, hey, I'm looking for a Seaver rookie, people that are were telling me, hey, there's one here. It's PSA this, and they want this much. Or I saw one here, right? And I've done that for other people. And how great is that when you look out for each other like that? Again, that fraternity word comes community, fraternity, that sort of thing, friendship, however you want to coin it, right? That's a beautiful thing, and to be looking out for one another. And you post, I like that comment. Generally speaking, right? Like when Orlando showed us, I don't think it's a secret. I think he posted. When he showed us the Walter Johnson photo signed from Walter Johnson's. Like, how cool is that? Like, how do you not be happy for that? For
exactly.
That? Like, you have to be a really bad bone person to not be happy for someone. When I got my Jackie 2 years ago, it was probably my most liked post ever. And how it's cool because people know what it means to you, and they're generally happy for you. And we seen Iowa Dave got the Jackie this year. We seen Rated Rabbi got the Hank Aaron rookie this year, and that's just cool. And what do we do? Hey, let me see it. Let me hold it, right? And you look, oh man, I'm happy for it. Man, that really presents well. Great eye appeal, right? We're generally genuinely, suddenly that word becomes harder to say, for happy for whoever that person is, that's the way it should be.
I like this idea. We should all get walkie-talkies next year as a backup for bad cell service to help each other finding cards.
Yeah, well, we should all get walkie-talkies, and the one guy who actually gets cell service, we just call in all the comp lookups to him. All right, Mike. Here, we're 72 right. Clemente PSA 8. What should it be going for?
Boost 628. Go, red team, go. Yeah. No, but just the comments and just being excited for each other. If anybody has any pickups they want to put in the chat room in the last couple of minutes and just mention anything.
Man, should brag. Hey, listen, especially the National. That's you can brag any day. There's no there's no amnesty. Well, it is bragging a little bit, but you don't have to apologize for it. You're happy you got something, right?
Yeah.
You're not bragging like you just crushed somebody in the sport. Like, yeah,
By the way, can you hear the storm outside my house? I'm in the middle of Wizard of Oz right now. If my house takes off and starts spinning,
yeah,
you'll know why.
Well, maybe you'll land in Chicago, and you'll save on air. Hey, Toto, we're not in Baltimore anymore.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, those shoes were at the National. The ruby red slippers.
Yep.
There's a segue I didn't mean to make.
It still says still have to do a video for my Peter's Wieners Killer Brew pickup non-national.
Try saying that 10 times real quick. Peter's Wieners Killer Brew. Yeah, not gonna happen here.
I love the Reggie proofs, by the way, as an Oriole fan.
Yeah.
Love those. Follow the brick road to Utah Street, Danny. Absolutely. Should we keep going? Because I got a couple more. You want to squeeze one more?
Go ahead. Because I threw a few out there at the same time. But go ahead. I got one we haven't talked about. Go ahead.
Okay.
You might even mention it, and then I'll jump in.
I enjoy the business of the hobby. I enjoy watching. Why do we love the hobby? I love seeing it evolve. I don't have to use all of it, but I love the extra information we get now. I love when you look up Pop Report, we're going to have notes, and I just love the evolution of the technology. I love watching it grow. Not all of it's going to stay, and most of it's going to fall by the wayside, but some of them are going to make it. And I do enjoy watching different companies come through in different ways that we can enjoy the hobby moving forward.
Yeah, I do as a dealer, right? You know what is real popular video like content, and I don't really like or watch is when people just take a camera and walk around the show. That doesn't do much for me, especially if I'm at that show. I'm there doing it. Like I don't need to watch. You know, I know they're real popular and they're heavily watched. I just don't. You know, it doesn't do much for me. Even the art of a deal when they actually videotape like the deal going down and the negotiation, and then they come to they consummate the deal and they count the $100 bills on the table. Like I don't, I don't know. I don't get much from that. I think I like it more when it's direct and it's me making a deal or making a sale if I'm a dealer at a show. But people love that. I guess if you can't get to the show, it's probably the next best thing for those folks.
Clearly, Mike Petty and I agree on everything for what he hates about the hobby. Jason, great pickups, by the way. I put that comment up there before, but let me see if I can throw that back up there. He got some nice stuff, so shout out to Jason there.
Yeah,
absolutely. There you go. I'll leave that one just up on the screen.
Yeah, I don't. It doesn't
you don't
do
like the video of coin flipping and people slamming Zion cases on display.
Oh man, don't get me going on that one because I have cases and I've had to tell people politely like don't because I think I've told this story before. I had a dealer friend of mine who was set up next to me, not Alessio. This is pre-Alessio days, and someone put their case on his glass Allstate case and cracked it and walked away. No, like my bad. I'm sorry. What can I do? Just was so embarrassed and just literally walked away. He looked at me like, can you believe that? I'm like, go track him down and say, dude, you just broke my case. Like, you're gonna say something? He wouldn't do it. I almost wanted to do it for him, but it wasn't my while he's my friend of mine, it wasn't my business. So he's like, don't let it go. So got a case. So that's a big thing with me. There's etiquette, right? We could probably do, maybe that's a future show, right? Card etiquette, online and in person, which there is. That's a lot becoming sometimes a lost art with that, right?
Not a part owner of Zion. I just got the hat for free. I guess we should say a little bit of a wrap up.
Well, I got one more, right?
Go for it.
Travel, man. Traveling. I don't know. I can't speak for everyone. I still enjoy traveling and getting away from home. And listen, I'm gonna be blunt honest here, and I'm married 25 years, and my wife doesn't listen to this. Isn't it nice to get away for a week from your spouse? I'm gonna be brave enough to say it on the air. Right? I love my wife. You don't stay married for 25 years sort of by accident. But I look forward to that week. It's sort of like she'll go on a girls' vacation. Like three girls and her from work will go to a beach for 3-4 days, rent a room, and have a girls' getaway. Right? These nationals are predominantly guys get away, not 100%. There's plenty of women, and we're seeing more every year, and that's a great thing. But right, it's a week to get away, to enjoy the hobby, which we love, and to get away from home for and take a break from that and travel. Right, see a city. I had never been to Cleveland prior to this trip. Right, never been to Progressive Field. Never seen the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I didn't go to it, but some people went to the Christmas Story house. Um, it's fun to travel and go to a place you've never been before. It's fun to travel and go to a place you have been before. If I go to Chicago next year for the National, I've been there twice already. I've actually been there 4 times, 2 for Nationals and 2 for other reasons. So this would be my 5th, and it's still going to be fun, even though it'll be the 5th time I'm there. And so I enjoy traveling, getting away from home, and that sort of thing. And not, I'm willing to admit that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Much the same way my wife takes those girls only trips. They don't go to card shows, but they go to the beach, they go out to dinner, and they do whatever they like to do. So I like I like the travel aspect of the hobby, whether that's going as a consumer, like I do at the National, or there's some cases where I travel even as a dealer to set up at maybe a show that's not my normal show. Every once, I don't do that a ton. I did it more as a younger dealer than I do it now, but every once in a while I'll get asked to, hey man, come to the show, blah blah blah, and then sometimes I'll do it. Not all the time, but right, traveling is fun. I think for the most part, we make me and you try to make a vacation when we travel together, as we have. We try to do things outside the hobby as well, and make it sort of a vacation and a hobby trip as well. And I think a lot of people do that, obviously.
Well said. I don't agree with everything. I have a wife who is willing to come to the she actually made the show on Sunday for a couple hours. She doesn't look forward to it, but she would. She came to Atlantic City and actually walked around the show. So if I can convince her, I love I brought my son. I love having family there, but I'm a big dork also. So I'm the anti.
And not just getting away from spouses, right? So week, hey, I'm taking a week off from work, right? I love my class and my kids and vice versa. And when I get back, it's like I get the greatest hugs. Like they're never going to let me go, and it warms my heart. But I also enjoy the week, right? Where I can catch my breath and not have to think about that kind of stuff for a week, and then kind of come back sort of refreshed, recharged, and see those kids run off the bus, running at me like they're in the Olympics, and give me a giant hug, which is what happened on the Monday following the National. And that stuff that gets to you, and you're making an impact on some young folks' lives to that effect. Not to be mushy, but it's just cool. I'm not going to lie about it. So, but I enjoy the week away from those kids as well, as much as I do care about them and love them. So,
Mookie says, my wife was thrilled that I spent our anniversary in Cleveland with middle-aged men.
That's funny.
She was actually cool. Good for you, Mookie. That's the type of wife I have, although I don't know if I can actually go on the trip.
So speaking of Atlantic City,
yeah,
I'm going to Atlantic City, I think, in 2 weeks with my wife, staying in, little casino, beach, dinners, hotel room, I think for 4 or 5 days. And I had to tell my softball team, like, hey, I won't be there Thursday on August 29th. And they're like, dude, it's playoffs. I'm like, if I bailed on my wife, I'm getting divorced. Which one of you's house am I living in?
Right.
until I get my own place, right? And they're like, yeah, you better go. But traveling's fun, and hopefully they win without me, and then I come back and catch up the next week.
Ruben says he's sure glad he doesn't have these wife issues.
I thought for a minute he said Wi-Fi.
DJ says Mookie is the Rodney Dangerfield and Don Rickles of YouTube. We love Mookie. All right, John. I think we've gone over by a couple. It's good to catch up after the National with everybody in the chat room. If anybody is still listening and you weren't live tonight, we really appreciated meeting everybody at the show, whether it was the YouTube get together.
Yeah, that never gets old.
Yeah, it's
that never gets old. And even if it's, regardless whether it's the first time or we're seeing you again, right?
Yeah,
it's just cool. It's a part of the hobby. I don't think we put enough emphasis on all the time, but it's fun, right? And you only get to do that so many times, so I appreciate it each and every time.
We appreciate all the comments. All right, I think it's about to roll out. Say goodnight, John.
Good night, John.